Imagine it's 1863. Peter, a slave, works on a cotton plantation. Life's brutal, but he's got one thing: his family, his wife, Dodienne, and their kids. That's his world. Then one day, everything shatters. He finds out he's been sold. Just like that. No warning, no choice. Can you imagine the heartbreak? Peter spends what he knows are his last moments with his family. They huddle together, praying, trying to hold on. And then, these white men show up and drag him away. The kids scream, chasing after him, tears pouring down their faces. Peter fights. He yells, thrashes, refuses to go. But then one of the men points a gun at Dodienne, and that's it. Peter stops cold. His whole body goes still. To protect her, he steps onto the cart willingly. But they're not done. Even after he surrenders, they beat him anyway. No mercy, no humanity, just violence. Then they drag him off again, like he's nothing. They throw him and others into a cage, transporting them like animals. Peter watches his children through the bars, getting smaller in the distance. And in that moment, he makes a vow. I'll come back for you. That promise is all he's got. It keeps him breathing. After what feels like forever, they arrive at a railroad construction camp. And if Peter thought the plantation was hell, this place makes it look soft. Severed heads of disobedient slaves are nailed at the entrance, a warning to everyone. At night, they sleep in cages. During the day, they work like machines. And even then, the guards beat and humiliate them for sport. Sometimes they quote the Bible while doing it, twisting scripture to justify their cruelty. Sick, right? And the dogs. Wild, vicious things, trained to hunt down anyone who runs. If a slave steps out of line, they get whipped or shot, no questions. Then there's the boss, Fassel, pure evil. He brands slaves right on the face. His top men, Harrington and Knowles. And Knowles, he's a slave too, but because he's a skilled hunter, they turned him into one of them. Another brutal twist. It's all twisted, every last part. But Peter holds on to that one thing, that promise. The hope that one day, somehow, he'll see his family again. Peter tries to keep his head down. He behaves, works hard. He's just trying to survive, trying to make it back to his family. But even when he helps his friend Gordon after a fall, the guards yell at him for not sticking strictly to his task. This place? It crushes your spirit if you let it. One evening, after they're locked back in their cages, the guards toss in a new prisoner, John. The man writhes in pain, his cheek freshly branded. Tomas, a young slave, watches in terror. He's trembling. Peter, always the steady one, sits beside him. He tells Tomas to remember his family, to treat this as just work, and to trust that God is still watching over them. But John, bitter and broken, scoffs at Peter's faith. Clearly, no God cares about us, he says. It's heartbreaking, but Peter doesn't argue. He simply nods and says, I'll pray for you. That calm, unwavering belief, that's what keeps him going. Then one day, Peter overhears something. Two white guards talking. Lincoln has freed the slaves. Those who escape are heading to Baton Rouge for protection. The Union Army is there. General Grant is holding it. Just a whisper of hope in the middle of hell. Their conversation cuts short when a guard sees Tomas messing up the food. Furious, he goes to punish the boy. But Peter steps in. He defends Tomas, tells him he's just a kid. The guard strikes Peter and pulls his gun, ready to shoot him for daring to speak. But then Fassel steps in, the brutal overseer. He stops the guard. For some reason, he's taken an interest in Peter. Maybe it's the strength in his silence. Maybe it's his spirit. Later that night, Fassel walks up to Peter's cage. And this moment, it's disturbing. Fassel tells Peter he is God now, and Peter is his dog. But Peter stares him down and replies, "Then feed me like a dog." Fassel laughs. But the next day, he chains Peter, makes him kneel while a dog snarls inches from his face. The dog memorizes Peter's scent. It's not just a threat, it's psychological warfare. Pure dehumanization. But Peter stays focused. Later, over lunch, he takes a risk. He tells the others about Lincoln and Baton Rouge. They could reach it in 5 days through the swamps. Some slaves hesitate. Those swamps are deadly. But Peter reminds them, so is this place. That hits hard. A few men agree to join. Now they just need a window to run. That chance comes soon. A slave drops dead on the job. The guards make Peter haul the body to a mass grave, a pit filled with corpses. Some white deserters nearby were supposed to do the digging, but when they see Peter, they say, let the black man do it. So he picks up the shovel, and that's when it clicks. This is it. He waits, shovel in hand. Then, boom, an explosion on the field. The guards look away. Peter strikes, kills the guards with the shovel, grabs a knife, and runs. The moment Peter escapes, chaos breaks loose. The other slaves, and even the white deserters, seize the chance. They bolt, knocking out guards along the way. John manages to grab a gun, but the guards aren't slow to react. They raise the alarm and start shooting, trying to stop the runners before they reach the woods. Fassel? He's fuming. He guns down deserters on the spot and screams for Harrington, Knowles, and the dogs. The hunt is on. Peter links up with 3 of his friends and leads them through the forest. Always listening, always alert. They finally reach the swamps. Most make it across safely, but Tomas freezes at the sight of crocodiles. That moment of hesitation costs him. The dogs catch up and tear into him. Fassel shows up, pulls the dogs back, and demands answers. Tomas, shaking in fear, won't talk, so Fassel makes him an offer. Give up Peter and the others, and he'll let him go. Terrified, Tomas spills everything. Fassel keeps his word almost. He lets Tomas walk into the swamp, then shoots him in the back. The crocs do the rest. Cold, ruthless. Meanwhile, Peter, John, and Gordon make it across. Peter suggests sticking to the swamp trail. It's harder to track. But John, emboldened by the gun, refuses to take orders. He heads for the horse path. Gordon hesitates, but Peter thinks splitting up will throw off the hunters. So Gordon takes a different route, and Peter reminds him, follow the sound of Lincoln's cannons. Peter takes off alone, but soon discovers something bad. His leg's bleeding. A bullet nicked him. He knows the dogs will sniff him out fast, so he runs, trying to gain ground. He stumbles upon a house owned by a white family, slaveholders. He acts fast. Using a vine, he ties a tourniquet above the wound. Then he sneaks behind a woodpile, spots a water pump, and sees clothes hanging out to dry. Taking a big risk, he dashes across the yard, grabs a shirt, and sprints back into the woods. But one of the kids spots him and rings the bell. The family alerts Fassel, who follows the trail straight to the house. Peter doesn't stop. He keeps moving, only pausing to bandage his leg with the stolen shirt. Then he pulls a genius move. He ditches the bloody shirt in an old trunk, knowing the dogs will follow the scent. Meanwhile, he hides underwater in the swamp. Fassel and his men arrive, find the shirt, and take the bait. They head down the road, thinking Peter's gone that way. Once the coast is clear, Peter slowly rises from the water, alive, hidden, and still ahead. Out of nowhere, a crocodile lunges at Peter, but he reacts fast, grabs a thick branch, shoves the beast back, and kills it with his knife. Pure survival instinct. This man is built to endure. Back at the plantation, Dodiane wakes from a nightmare. She saw Peter in danger. The kids stir, scared, but Dodiane, calm and fierce, tells them he's alive. She knows Peter. He survives what no one else can. That night, Peter climbs a tree and scrapes swamp leeches off with his knife. Blood drips onto the leaves below, but he doesn't notice. Down on the ground, Fassel finds the crocodile Peter killed. They cut it open. Empty. Peter slipped through again. The guards roast the crocodile over a fire. Harrington, chewing on meat, actually gives Peter credit for surviving, but Fassel shuts him down fast. Then he says something chilling. His father taught him never to give black people even a little, because they'll always want more. Jobs, land, everything. That's the fear fueling his hate. Meanwhile, Peter keeps going. At dawn, he smears himself in mud and animal waste to block his scent. The flies swarm, but it works. As he prepares to cross another swamp, he whispers a prayer, asking God to keep the beasts at bay. When sunlight breaks through the clouds and shines on him, he takes it as a sign. Fassel splits his men, spreading the search wider. But Peter catches a break. He finds an old treehouse. Inside, there's clean water, leftover food, and still hot coals. He heats his knife and cauterizes his wound. The pain is unreal, but he grits through it. Then, thinking ahead, he scoops the coals into a bucket and climbs a tree. He spots a beehive nearby. With a little smoke, he scares the bees off and collects some honey. Small victory, hard-earned. Fassel sees the smoke and rushes over. But Peter? Already gone. Before leaving, Peter finds a boat tucked under the treehouse. One last obstacle. A snake coils near it. Peter nudges it aside with a branch, slips into the boat, and sets off down the river, honey in hand. A taste of freedom, sweet and defiant. Back at the plantation, Dodiane faces her own nightmare. Her master tells her she's been sold. She'll be gone in 2 days. And the worst part? Her children aren't going with her. The new master wants to give her a new husband. Dodiane is crushed. But deep down, she still believes Peter will return. She can't give up on him. So in a desperate act of defiance, she thrusts her hand into a cotton machine, faking an accident. It's brutal, but for her, it's the only way to stay close to her kids and keep hope alive. Meanwhile, Fassel is still chasing Peter. His dog sniffs out the treehouse and picks up Peter's trail near the river. Peter, already across, rushes into the woods and suddenly runs into John. But John's furious. He accuses Peter of leading trouble straight to him. Peter insists he's not being followed and even shows John how to hide his scent. But John refuses to listen. They take off running, but it's too late. The dogs are already closing in. Peter hides inside an old trunk. John scrambles up a tree, but the dogs find John's scent. Fassel and his men arrive. John won't come down, so Fassel shoots him. Even then, John stays silent. He doesn't give Peter up. So Fassel orders something truly sick. He beheads John and sends his head back with Harrington and Knowles as a warning. Inside the trunk, Peter hears everything. Eyes shut, he whispers a prayer for his friend's soul. He waits for hours until the rain starts falling. When he finally emerges, he sees what Fassel did. And it guts him, but he can't stop. Grief in his chest, he pushes forward. Suddenly, a group of horses gallop past, one of them on fire. Peter follows the trail and stumbles onto a burning plantation. The white folks are dead, the house ablaze. Looks like the slaves here got word of Lincoln too, and took justice into their own hands. Peter, knife ready, moves through the house. He finds the dining room, and in that moment, hunger takes over. He dives into the food and wine, desperate for strength. But then, a strange sound upstairs. He follows it and finds a young girl pinned under a harp. She's playing it faintly, as if begging for help. Peter frees her and carries her outside, laying her gently on a table. He turns to fetch water, but she clings to him. She's terrified. Then, she hands him her cross. Peter understands. She doesn't want water. She wants faith, comfort. He takes her hand, says a prayer, and promises, God is with you. Peter's still focused on the girl when it happens. He doesn't hear Harrington sneaking up until it's too late. He's forced to drop his knife and step away if he doesn't want a bullet. As soon as Peter lets go, the girl dies. And Peter, he snaps. Enraged, he lunges at Harrington and kills him, drives the girl's cross pendant straight into his throat. Then, Knowles appears. Peter grabs Harrington's gun and shoots him too. Knowles, bleeding, tries to reason with him, says a man tough enough to kill a crocodile could earn a place under Fassel. But Peter's done with traitors. He calls Knowles the worst kind and leaves him to die. Suddenly, the barking dogs get louder. Fassel's getting close. Peter bolts, ducking into the cotton fields. The dog charges him. He shoots it down. Later, Fassel finds the dog's body. It only fuels his obsession. He won't stop until Peter's dead. By morning, Peter reaches a beach littered with corpses, white soldiers who fell in battles against Lincoln's army. No supplies, no weapons. But in the distance, he sees the ships and hears cannon fire. Freedom is close. Peter starts running toward it, hope finally within reach. But then, hoofbeats. A horse slams into him, knocking him down. It's Fassel. Twisted to the end, Fassel offers Peter a piece of meat, the same kind Peter once begged for. He tells Peter to crawl for it. Peter refuses. Fassel pulls his gun. I told you I was your god. But before he can shoot, bang! A bullet hits him first. Peter watches as Fassel drops. You are not my god, he says coldly. Peter turns, and there they are, the Union's native guard, led by Lieutenant Caillou. Finally, help. Peter's body gives out. Exhausted and starving, he collapses. Soldiers carry him to a medical tent in Baton Rouge. His leg wound is badly infected, and a nun tends to him. For days, Peter does nothing but rest and dream of his family. Once Peter feels strong enough, he heads to a soldier to get his new papers as a free man. But some details? He has to make them up. His age, his parents' origins, even says they were from Haiti. But there's a catch. He can't leave to find his family. The army still treats escaped slaves as stolen property. So they give him two choices: work the federal farms or join the Union Army. Peter refuses to be ordered around again, but the soldier makes a good point. If he joins, he might actually free his family for real. So Peter signs up, not because he's following orders, but because now he's fighting for freedom on his own terms. Then comes something unexpected. He finds Gordon. He's wounded, but alive. Peter feels relief, but also heartbreak as he tells him what happened to John. Later, Peter meets Lieutenant Caillou to get his uniform, but first, someone asks him for a favor. To pose for something called a photograph. Peter hesitates. Cow assures him the white photographers aren't here to harm him. They want to show the truth of slavery to the world. Peter agrees. He removes his shirt and turns his back to the camera, revealing thick scars from hundreds of whippings. That photo? That becomes the scourged back, the image that shocked the world. Later, Peter meets the general, who wants intel on the Confederate Railroad. Peter shares what he knows. But then, the general looks at Peter's scars and questions whether someone so disobedient should be in the army. Caillou tries to de-escalate, but Peter speaks up. Those scars, he says, prove he survived. He fought through every beating, every attempt to break him, and kept going. And that, he says, is what makes a soldier. At dawn, Caillou leads Peter and his fellow soldiers into the trenches. He gives a fierce speech. They're not begging for freedom, they're taking it. As the march begins, enemy fire rains down. Soldiers fall, but no one stops. They charge forward, fearless. Chaos erupts, explosions, screams. Peter gets knocked out by a blast, lost, wakes up face down in the mud. But even injured, he pushes forward. He drags his body, fires his weapon, and comforts the dying. Caillou falls in battle. Then Peter sees Gordon, wounded and terrified. And somehow, that gives Peter the strength to rise again. He breaks cover and charges toward the enemy's cannons. Others follow, inspired by him. And because of that, because one man refused to stop running, the native guard takes the field and wins. With the war finally over, Union soldiers begin visiting plantations to free the slaves. When they reach Peter's old home, no one believes it at first. The news feels unreal, like a dream, but then it sinks in. Freedom, actual freedom. And just like that, disbelief turns into joy. Peter watches his former master fall, justice served at last. Then, he sets out to find his family. He searches everywhere, his hope slipping fast. He's on the verge of breaking down, so he whispers a prayer, closes his eyes, then turns his head. And there they are, his wife, his children, running toward him. The reunion he promised, the moment he never stopped fighting for. And Peter's story doesn't end there. That photo, the scourge back, it became legendary, a global symbol of strength and survival. By 1863, Lincoln's proclamation had already helped over 400,000 black people escape to freedom. By 1865, nearly 4 million were finally recognized as free. But this isn't just a story from the past. It's a reminder. Even in the darkest moments, hope can break through. One person's courage can spark a movement. And real freedom? Sometimes you don't wait for it. Sometimes you take it. Peter took it for himself and for everyone who came after. Makes you stop and think, right? What are we fighting for?